Welcome to another Junji Ito masterpiece, Chapter 8, The Snail. The chapter begins with rainy day, where Kiri and her friend discuss about a boy named Katayama, where he only show up to class on the rainy day. The teacher gives him a lecture on fierceness that he shouldn't just come to school whenever he wants. Katayama responds saying that he got up early, but it took him a long time. One of his bullies, Tsumura, teased him about being slow and it take Katayama 10 times compared to the normal person to get somewhere. The teacher then scolds Katayama that he always getting wet and asks him to consider buying an umbrella. Later at PE, Katayama's delayed reactions caused him to be unable to win the game. With a smirk on Katayama's face, Tsumura, personally offended by his slowness. In the boy locker room, Tsumura screamed and attacked Katayama, stripped him, and dragging him out into the school hallway. Katayama becomes extremely embarrassed and turns to his back, revealing an ominous spiral on his back while he slowly glides away into the locker room. On Tuesday, everyone noticed that Katayama's back was swollen up into a spiral. When Mr. Yokota questions his back, Katayama just shrugs it off as being swollen. Kiri suspects about the spiral curse, as if it looked like a snail. On Wednesday, Katayama's back growth even larger. On Thursday, Katayama came to class completely nude. His spiral back had shaped into a snail shell, his legs had been completely attached to each other, leaving him unable to walk. And he is also unable to speak. Everyone scream about the bizarre event, but Katayama just go and sit in his desk as if nothing was happening. On Friday, Katayama had not shown up to class. Outside, one of the students notices he is up on the school wall. Katayama had become a man-sized snail, as Kiri point out that he'd been cursed by the spiral. The school had enough and called his parents to come pick him up. His parents were unconvinced that the spiral snail thing is their son, and they leave without him. The school had been forced to put Katayama inside a cage and eventually took care of him. Tsumura, even though he knows that Katayama is a snail, continues to pick on him. Later that day, Tsumura becomes incredibly thirsty, and his friend tells him that he's going to drown if he keeps drinking that much water. He then sees Tsumura become slower on his walk to school, where his friend walked passing him. The next day, supposedly Tsumura does not show up to school. The scene then shifts to Kiri and her friend visiting the cage of a snail man, as they think that the Katayama does not come out of his cell because it has not been raining and maybe he might die from dehydration. So, Kiri decides to spray water of Katayama, which then come out of the shell and scare both of girl away. The next rainy day, the teacher asks the class about Tsumura's disappearance. Kiri then notices another snail man is climbing on the classroom's window. At first, they think Katayama escaped from the cage, but as it turns out, Tsumura had become another one of the horrific, man-sized snails. Tsumura had to be moved into the same cage Katayama is in. The student comment that Tsumura used to bully Katakana. Now they get along well. All of a sudden, their face turned to shock, as they seen both male snail twos start mating. The next week, Tsumura and Katayama escaped from their cages as they dug through the ground. Mr. Yokota, Kiri and her friend left the school and find a trail that they left behind, where they lead into the hills. Mr. Yokota discovers that Tsumura and Katayama had laid eggs, as he described them. Whatever it is, they are no longer human. They are other organism, so call them mollusk people. Mr. Yokota, disgusted by this discovery and think that it is unnatural to let this creature breed, he stomped on and smashed the eggs, creating a small spiral-shaped puddle. Several days later, Mr. Yokota arrives to class as a snail covered with snail eggs.